everything that's coming up. Did you also, as you came today, did you realize that this is the last day of the first half of the year? Did anyone think through that? I don't know if that's good news to you or bad news. You could have been like, wow, I can't believe that we're already halfway through this year. All the things I set out to do, I have not done. So this is your chance now for the last 6 months to cram it all in. Or you might be looking at it saying, this year has been terrible, and I'm so glad that it's halfway over, because that means there's only half of terribleness left, and we'll be through it here shortly. Or you're like, yeah, I really like having markers and metrics to help me along in the year and the things that I am feeling called to or the goals that I'm setting out. But I wondered for us this morning, wherever you're at, halfway through the year, are you feeling rested or restless? Are you feeling rested or restless? Some of you are like, well, it's a no-brainer. I have kids, so I'm restless. I don't know this word rested that you're talking about. I think most people in the room, the obligations that you have in your life, the things that keep you busy, you might be feeling more restless than you are rested. You might be in a season of working more than you ever have, and you're exhausted. You might be a single parent, and both working and raising a child or children is completely restless for you. Maybe you're in a season of dealing with a health diagnosis that is causing you complete restlessness. Maybe there's financial challenges present in your life that is causing utter restlessness. I could keep going in the ways in which you're very familiar for your own life of what you might be restless with, and or some of you feel rested. You're like, yeah, I don't know, I hit a new stride this year, and there's a season change in my work or in my family situation, or maybe in my dating life. There's a roommate shift that happened where I actually feel like I have more energy and I'm not being drained in the same way. And you actually feel rested in this season. This was the first summer. We have a 4 and a 5-year-old, my wife Caitlin and I, Emery and Josie, and this is the first summer we came into where we said, we actually feel like we have a plan. And we don't feel like summer is just completely barreling at us, and we're just at the mercy of summer. And we know where the girls are going, and we know what we're doing, and we have ways and rhythms that feel like we actually have energy in this season. Which, talk to me tomorrow, and you can ask me if I still feel like I have that same energy or not. But wherever we're at, I wonder what might be making you either rested or restless. And a lot of that is situational rest or restlessness. What that might not include is actual soul restlessness. So there could be situations and contexts that we find ourselves in, and then there's just the things deep down inside of us that no matter how our context is around us, we might actually find restlessness within our soul. And this is not by any means an exhaustive list, but these are things like striving for approval from others. Maybe you use the word, you feel hurried, you feel busy, you feel overwhelmed. The restlessness that drives us to desiring more, and it feels like we can never arrive or we never have enough. That our worth is constantly being derived from how we compare ourselves to others. And we feel like more than, or we feel like not enough, depend on who we're comparing ourselves to. We're losing ourselves in work and in others, meaning we have no boundaries, we have no limits. We either overfunction and try to do too much on behalf of others, or even for ourselves, or we just completely pull away, and we don't really do either. We're unable to serve others and give generously. We actually don't have the capacity to think outside of our own life and on behalf of other people. And we may be like white knuckle and hold on tighter rather than open our hands and let our life go as a blessing to other people. We're disengaged, we're lacking clarity, we're missing purpose, we're unforgiving, we're impatient, we're fearful. Where are you feeling restless in this season? What might be causing that restlessness for you? Maybe it's the lawnmower outside as we try to talk. It distracts you of your thoughts, so you feel restless. And I forgot what I was going to say next. But really, what's making you restless in this season? What feels like no matter what you try or what you do, every time you turn the corner, you run right back into it? And that restlessness is driving you. It's driving you impulsively to certain decisions and certain actions and certain behaviors. It's motivating the way in which you view others and you view yourself. It actually influences the way you spend the minutes and the moments throughout your day. Are you aware of your own restlessness? The seasons that we find ourselves in will be ever challenging. From your own personal life to the relationships that you find yourself in, to the work that you do or do not do. That'll always continue to change. There will be seasons where you naturally just can have energy and rest because things are so easy, and there's other seasons where you're naturally restless because it just feels like too much. But what about underneath? What about your soul? If someone was to ask you this morning, how is your soul? Would you know how to answer? Not what would you say. Do you first even know how would you answer? And I want to give us an opportunity to actually sit with and pause with that this morning. Because I think Jesus gives us one of the greatest invitations to every single person who might be feeling restless this morning, situationally or even in your soul. Eugene Peterson paraphrases Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus' words, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." Is that not maybe one of the most controversial and counterintuitive verses that we could hear this morning? Where if you have the same thing inside of you that's inside of me, there's a constant nagging at you to do more, to keep up, to get to the next thing, to always feel a little bit behind. And over and over and over again, those are things that are actually celebrated culturally. We can be praised for overworking. It's a badge of honor that I'm the first one there and the last one out, even when my boss doesn't ask me to, and maybe at the sacrifice and detriment of my own relationships and family. To have it all held together, that we can muscle our way through this restlessness, the situation that we find ourselves in is a proud moment. I got this. I don't need anyone else or anything else. And to you, no matter the restlessness or the rest that you find yourself in, Jesus comes to you. He comes to the situation of your life, of your work, of your health, of your marriage, of your dating. And he says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Other words, are you burned out on trying to do more for God so that you can feel a sense of God? In what ways are you trying to earn the love that God might have for you? In what ways do you don't feel like you can earn it? Are you burnt out on religion? Are you burnt out in trying to decide who's in and who's out? Am I in? Am I out? He says, come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. Coming to him, he has something to offer you for your life. Rich Villodas, he wrote the book, The Deeply Formed Life, and then Beautiful, Kind, and Good, I believe. He actually is going to be an honorary teacher at FPU, Fresno Pacific University, this next year for their master's in ministry, leadership, and culture, which I am a product of. So you may like that idea or not. We'll let you rank that program on what you think of me. But Brian Ross, one of the overseers here, back there wearing a UW hat, he actually designed the program, and it's a great opportunity for anyone who's looking for a seminary degree without a bachelor's. It's an online program if you know people in your life. But Rich Villodas and also our national director for Vineyard, Jay Pathak, will be a part of that program this next year, which I'm very excited about. That's why I tell you about that. But he says rest is the quality of life that enables us to live at ease in confident trust in God. Do you feel like you're living at ease right now? Now, maybe in the back of your head, you're saying, well, you can't just put your feet up and do nothing. You're right. Work is one of the ways in which we express God's creation, the way in which he created us to tend to things, to steward things, to work hard, to work well, to honor the things that he's put in front of us. But there's a way in which we go about our work. There's a way in which we go about our life. And I would ask you this morning, do you feel like you're going about your life with ease? And I wonder how much of that ease or unease comes from whether we trust in God or not. Whether we believe that he does actually have things in his hand. Whether we believe that when he tells his disciples in John 16, he says, I tell you this because you will have trouble, but I have overcome the world. Therefore, you can have peace. Do we believe that the situation we find ourselves in, that he has actually gone before and he has overcome, and that we can still experience peace and grace and love and goodness, that we can continue to be transformed and renewed to become more good and beautiful and kind in this world, even though the situation we find ourselves in situationally causes complete restlessness? Is the restlessness that you experience because you and I are striving too much? Because we actually believe that we can be in control of something, and therefore we're trying to gain control? Is the restlessness caused because of the way in which we've been patterned to experience shame in our life, that we do not feel good enough, that we cannot show up in a room fully ourselves, that we carry insecurities wherever we go, and therefore I need to try and overcome that I cannot just sit at ease, that I'm actually loved, that I'm seen by God exactly where I'm at? Over and over and over again, do you trust in God? Because it seems that Jesus is inviting us to a life of ease, which I know does not make sense in your and my brain. So this is why I think this morning, one of the greatest invitations that Jesus is offering you and I as a way of following him, of apprenticing to him, is that we be people who are constantly returning to rest. Maybe you have come to Jesus before, you've professed your faith and you're following him, and we got into heaven in some way, shape, or form. But we know throughout the scriptures that Jesus is not just trying to get us to heaven, but he's actually trying to get heaven into us. And so what that does is it causes us to actually need to return to something over and over and over again, because we have not yet arrived at something, which is that something is heaven breaking into our own lives to make us new and to make us good and holy and righteous. The thing that the world desires is for you and I to keep changing and to live with more grace and kindness and mercy and tenderness. Are you returning to rest ever? Or do you most often return to yourself? Do you most often return to the restlessness? Do you most often return to your own desires and your own ways of trying to figure it out? In what areas might you be most prone to do that? In what areas are you experiencing that the most in your life right now? Jesus again in Matthew 11:28, come to me all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. He's not saying that you get to take a vacation. The Zook family has been gone for 3 weeks, and they'll tell you that vacation is even tiring and that they need a rest from 3 weeks of vacation. 3 weeks, that's good. But really, do we just work so hard and then we just wait for the weekend? We just wait for that next vacation. We wait until we can take a breath. We wait until that check to come through so we don't have to feel the financial pains anymore. Are we waiting for the next thing? He actually offers us, in the context of our waiting, in the context of our doing, in the context of our normal life that might feel overwhelming and stressful and a lot, which is true, we can also experience rest at the same exact time. And wouldn't that change the way in which we actually relate to and experience the context that we find ourselves in? He continues, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. You will actually be able to find contentment in your life and not have to change the next or get the next thing. You will be able to actually walk into the experiences in which you feel like you have to prove yourself to those certain people, and you will be able to enter in not having to prove yourself anymore. You will be able to experience a life free of shame that you are not worth enough. You will be able to forgive well. You will be able to have grace and mercy upon yourself and other people. There will be rest for your souls, not just the restlessness that you and I experience very often. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. You'll find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Yoke is the wooden structure that would be placed on any type of cattle. I think we have an image for it here. And what it's an invitation to is that Jesus actually has a yoke for us to be yoked together with him, to take on the ways of his life. By joining with him, there is a lightness to the invitation that he has for the life that you and I can lead. It is light and it is easy if we are willing to be yoked with him. If we are willing to come alongside, to move away from our normal rhythms, to move away from our normal desires, to move away from our normal patterns, and let the yoke that is already around him fall on our neck and bind us to him. This actually requires a repatterning of our life. You and I live by rhythms and patterns. You wake up and you do certain things. You go to sleep after you do certain things. You arrive at work and you do your weird OCD things at your desk to get ready for you have rhythms and patterns in your life constantly. So the rhythm and pattern to Jesus is just another way of allowing ourselves to be formed. He is right now in this statement, everyone would be aware of the way in which Jesus relates to the paid religious professionals of their time. People like me, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the people who knew all the law, the people that understood the most about God. And he said to them, they tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and then put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Jesus comes in countercultural to them and says, my burden is easy and it's light. I will give you things, a way of living and a way of being where you will actually experience ease in the life that you find yourself in. And I will be the one to do the heavy lifting. I will lift the finger to the point of death. I will actually walk a path of humility and gentleness and grace and mercy and kindness that will change the way in which you're able to live. Will change the way in which you can experience God. Will change the way in which you can experience your own life. It'll change the way in which you can experience others. I will do the heavy lifting for you. Will you literally just come next to me and let the yoke fall upon you to bring you to a place of rest? Dallas Willard says the general human failing is to want what is right and important. I know you are here because you want what is right and important. You want goodness and peace and joy and love and kindness in your life and for others. But at the same time, not to commit to the kind of life that will produce the action we know to be right in the condition we want to enjoy. You can maybe remember growing up, maybe depending on where you're at, wearing WWJD bracelets. Okay, you do not have to cut them off. You can keep them, but I will say this. As you think about the WWJD, what would Jesus do? What we're doing is we're trying to ask in a moment and make a decision as Jesus would. But if we have not lived the way in which Jesus would, how do we make a decision that he would make? Or imagine it this way. You have a group of kids that go out and play street hockey, or they go out to the park and play soccer, or they go out to the field and play baseball. You can watch them very quickly. They want to emulate Wayne Gretzky. They want to hit the ball as far as Barry Bonds. They want to be able to score like Messi does. And on the spot, they're trying to be like the people that they look up to, but have they done the training? Have their muscles been formed in ways to be able to have the power that those players did? Do they have the reflexes where they don't even have to think about what they're doing, they just do it? They're actually better when they don't think about it. No, we would look at them and say, hey, that's a great attempt, but you have years of grinding to ever be able to try to emulate anyone like that. And Dallas Willard is saying, man, I know you want good things. You want to be able to live on the spot like Jesus would. You want to be able to respond to people like Jesus would. But are you living in the way that's forming you so that you can respond in grace? So that you can respond in forgiveness? So that you can respond in mercy and in justice and in compassion? Are you taking on the ways in which Jesus lived as an invitation for you and I to experience more life than we ever could on our own? A way in which we get to do this, and we're going to move into an experience here in a second, is through something called a rule of life. How many people like rules? Yeah, good, didn't think so. Dusty, Enneagram 1 is like, yeah, tell me the rules so I know what to do. A rule, Latin word is a trellis. If you just let grapes grow on the ground, they actually aren't going to grow as much as if you gave it a trellis to stand up and point towards the sun. And so a rule is a way in actually supporting your life to be propped up so that you can experience more fruit, if we're thinking about the grapevine analogy, so that you can experience more of what God is trying to produce in and through you. And very quickly, it's the structure or rhythm. I'm going to show you mine for a second. It's my vulnerability on display. You'll see into my life. Do we have that there, Blake? There we go. So you're going to actually work this out in a second. So I just wanted to give an example of what this looks like. Every 60 to 90 days, I actually rework this. Life changes within the weeks, if not every 3 months enough to invite me to think through this. But a rule, there's a lot of ways of doing this. We could think about it as 4 buckets: prayer, rest, relationship, and work. What this has done is it's invited me to place the big rocks in my life first. It's invited me to think through, if these things aren't happening in my life is coming at me. You've heard the quote with your finances: if you don't tell your money where to go, you'll be left asking where it went. Like your life, like the ways in which you go about your days and your weeks and your months, you could set out to do anything, and if you do not put big rocks first, you'll get to the end of the month and say, where did time go? What actually just happened this last week, this last month, this last year? And so some examples in my prayer life: morning prayer and scripture. I meet with a spiritual director every month that helps me ask questions deeper in my life and how I relate to God and other people and uncover some things that I may not be aware of. Yes, our 6th, 7th, 8th, and 4th and 5th graders can participate in this. I have my midday prayer. I do a daily exam, and I fast on Wednesdays, and I practice gratitude by writing cards, and I have a space in which I write out laments. In this season, that's a way in which I'm practicing my prayer life. Is that everything? No. But without those, I can see in my life where things will get wonky. When I think about rest, we Sabbath from 1 to 1 p.m. on Sunday to 1 p.m. on Monday. I do not work. I find joy. I do some kind of thing and find enjoyment or delight in. I exercise. I play pickleball twice a month, at least, for fun and for competition, so I can beat people. It's great. Turn my phone off 1 hour a day, annual retreat for 3 nights in January, and then get in nature and do challenging things. That's vague, but Tara, my wife, another person, we're gonna go do Mount Whitney in a couple weeks. That's something that I looked at this year and saying, I need to go do something like really hard out in nature. And so this is a way in which I'm offering myself to the Lord to be a person who is experiencing Him throughout my day, not just wondering where God was throughout my day. And these are the ways that orient. From relationships, a coffee date, trying to get a date with just my girls individually. 1 to 2 nights, Caitlin and I try to get away, check in with a close friend. 1 neighborhood connection, meaning I either do a prayer walk or I try and engage someone in their front yard, not just wave at them, but actually have a little bit of a conversation, connecting with our family members. And then work, pray for our staff, a day away per month where I'm off, I'm praying, I'm writing, I'm reading, I'm resting. I try to limit my meetings so that I can spend more time with people outside of church and outside of faith for the sake of relational evangelism. I keep a big 3 in front of me that I'm praying for us as a church over the next 3 to 6 months, and then I have weekly space for personal study. Does this go the way it looks every single week and month? Absolutely not, because you all live the same thing I do. It's called life. But if we do not aim for anything, we will hit it every single time. So what are you aiming for? What are you aiming for? If you actually draw a bullseye, you'll have much better chance of hitting it because you know where it lies. If you look at the ways in which Jesus might be meeting you in his grace and inviting you to rest, what might be some of those things? Now, sometimes the temptation sitting here in a church setting might just be like uber spiritual. Like you're just going to become a monk and go live in the desert, and that's the only way in which you can be formed. But I think it's actually in the ordinary aspects of life. It's from the minutes and the moments that you wake up till you go to bed in which you and I are invited to be formed by the peace and the love and the grace of Jesus, to be in rest with him. I'm going to invite the worship team forward, and I'm just going to give us a prompt of how we're going to do this. And we're actually going to spend some time filling this out. You get to sit there and think as much or as little as you'd like to about it. You get to take this with you. There's actually a QR code if you would like to do this digitally. It's more robust than this. It'll walk you through ideas. It'll walk you through your days and your weeks. It's beautiful. Some people might find that overwhelming. I've been doing this for about 2 years. And so I don't recommend filling your sheet like mine is right now. I recommend you pick a couple things in each bucket. Start small. Start somewhere simple. Start somewhere where you know you can do this. It's already built in. You don't have to change your day. You don't have to change your week. You just imagine, hey, I know when I drive to work Monday to Friday, I'm just going to drive with the radio off. That's a way in which I'm just going to be still in prayer before God. You may not even have to think about how to pray or what words to say, but you're just present. You can think about some of the relationships around you and what's a way in which you can offer yourself to that relationship, that you can offer yourself to God. We can get into all the upstream and downstream and all the different ways of filling this out, but if you just pause right now, I'm going to read the verse here again in a second. What would bring you rest? Let that be the driving question this morning. What are some of the rhythms and practices that would help move you from restlessness to rest? That would help you move from trying to do life on your own in life with Jesus. And so I'm going to read this verse, and we're going to have a handful of minutes here to just write whatever comes up for you. Jesus, to all people, including us, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. last minute. Why don't we stand together?